It's very important that on behalf of staff, we very much like to apologize to those businesses that were impacted by the situation. Certainly we recognize that a lot of your time and effort was put to trying to resolve and correct a concern that was taking place in that location. And for that, we apologize. We certainly recognize that we made some missteps and errors in this situation, and that we certainly could have done it better. And for that, I'd like to apologize on behalf of city staff, recognizing that there's more work to do in this location, in this neighborhood, with both businesses and residents. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Director Fulton, who can probably provide some more detail.
Thank you. So this intersection has been brought to our attention on numerous occasions from the residents up above Second Street, which there are also hotels up there. In particular, the issues that are brought to our attention was the visibility for cars moving from Second Street onto Lincoln Street going north. They could not see around the vehicles parked in front of the businesses there. So we did a sightline engineering analysis, and it was clear that the current parking spaces interrupted the sightline for cars pulling out of Second Street onto Lincoln Street. There were some comments that, some current concerns that no one has really seen accidents out there, so we pulled the records when they did this analysis. So from 1997 to 2016, there have been 25 crashes at this intersection, totaling 52 vehicles, 4 injuries, 2 of them being pedestrians. And so with that, we went to the traffic committee for analysis of this, the traffic and safety issue. And based on the sight lines, it was determined that 3 parking spaces should be eliminated to get the sight line both to see pedestrians and the vehicles turning from Second Street onto Lincoln. What's interesting is there are, I'd say half of the accidents were rear ends of vehicles proceeding south, i.e. up the incline to Second Street. We didn't look into details of those, but more than likely, my guess is that pedestrians crossing that intersection stepped out and vehicles had to stop suddenly, and there was a rear end. So that's the analysis of it. It is a dangerous intersection. You do need to make some adjustments. I did direct that 2 of the 3 be changed back from red to white for parking. It does open up potential liability for the city if the true engineering requires 3 to be closed. But I made that decision to step back and address some of the issues with the businesses. I did meet with that businesses that day and discussed with the owners of the New Moon and the fitness center, and discussed what we were going to do. We proceeded to revise the situation, but we still need to take some action on the safety of that intersection. We will be having some discussions with the hotels on Second Street, with the residents of Second Street, and the businesses on Lincoln Street to see if the changing Second Street to one-way direction is a viable solution. That will resolve some of the turning safety issues. It really won't resolve the pedestrian crosswalk issue, which I acknowledge is well, all the crosswalks on Lincoln Street are dangerous, but the closer parked cars are onto that crosswalk, the less sight distance people have. So we will have to address that pedestrian crosswalk, whether it's additional lighting. There are some discussions of eliminating the crosswalk, but human nature is human nature. People are going to cross right there, whether it's a crosswalk or not. So having a crosswalk provides a little warning to drivers that there's a potential of pedestrians stepping in front. So as I addressed in the email to the council, I acknowledge we did not execute this, but we should plan for those 2 businesses when the engineering analysis was done. The New Moon hadn't been opened yet, and so a lot of these actions took place probably in the wrong order. It would have been great if they had painted, New Moon had opened and we could address this with them beforehand, but that did not occur. So we will be be stepping back. I did direct that 2 of the 3 be painted white. And we step back to the residents, the hotels, and the business owners on Lincoln Street to develop a consensus on a way forward to fix this intersection.
I remember in terms of the questions that we were asking
Thanks for members of our business community stepping forward and telling us your concerns. Thanks again to the city staff for addressing this. Craig, you talked about doing an intersection analysis. I'd be curious up there at 4th and Lincoln, when the buses are up against the curb against Safeway, let's look at that intersection too for accidents. I'd actually, like you point out, Lincoln is really the way out of town for majority of people that do come through here. I'd like to see an analysis done at least up to 8th.
And I agree. I've got a number of people asking for reevaluations of pedestrian crosswalks, especially the county personnel who cross the Safeway. Lincoln's just a tough road, so yeah, we need to step back and do not only 2nd Street, but all the way up. I agree.
Yeah, and my initial thought process on this is my initial favoritism would be turning 2nd into a one-way street going west with angled parking. If we have to take even the one that we've temporarily, or right now got painted red that we've taken from the businesses, if we've got to take maybe one more from there, but if we did angle parking from the beginning of Lincoln going up the hill, I think we could maybe compensate for those parking spots. So I do favor that idea right now, what I do know initially about it. My bottom line is, though, in order to be responsible to my constituents, is I would like to know from staff or anyone on council the exact procedure and policy. That's what we're here for, is policy. To the staff, how does this work? How is this decision made?
Yeah, the decision process, communication process did not run smooth on this. So there were a couple disconnects with engineering and then streets and then myself on when this would occur. And then communicating that to the businesses on Lincoln Street. So, yeah, we will be, parking is critical for our business, especially the downtown where it is constrained. And so any changes in parking will be brought to my attention before any action is taken, and that will be occurring. And then we need to involve the downtown association for input. So, and I believe this area is part of the downtown, so that will be taking place to advise them on any parking issues. We've worked well with the downtown association when we just recently renovated 3 of the parking lots, and so there is that communication. It just did not happen in this instance.
Well, Craig, again, as an elected representative of the folks here in Port Angeles, my direct question to staff or my fellow council members that have served longer than I am, by what policy did this decision arrive? Is it within your capabilities as our public works director to cite a safety concern, as Councilmember Collins claimed earlier this evening, or is this a policy that's been given? I don't know how it works. I'd just like some explanation.
And that would be a good point that we can do a full research on exactly what policies are in place, what our ordinance is saying, and then we come back in 2 weeks and give a good presentation.
I just know that as the co-chair on the Utility Advisory Committee, we can't tell everybody your electricity's going up. We can't tell everybody your water rates are going up. We as a council decide that, and it would seem to me that if the businesses which support our city are losing parking, that, in my opinion, should be a council policy decision.
Yes, Mr. Gomez. Well, I do have a fair amount of experience in this city, and so does the courts. The courts have consistently found cities and property owners liable when an accident occurs and there's not proper sight vision on that intersection. The policy is actually established through the Public Works engineering standards, which sets those safety measures. And I don't think it's a policy of the city to say we value parking over safety. I don't think we should decide that, but the courts are going to decide that if somebody gets hurt, then we're gonna pay for it. So that's the reason that there are these standards to provide safety to pedestrians and to people. I am a patron of the New Moon from time to time, and I can tell you that both the fitness center and New Moon are businesses that go well into the night, and around here in the winter it can get pretty dark even right after work. And the best parking is right across the street. And the suggestion that we consider lighting the crosswalk there, I think is an excellent suggestion, because it would address the safety concerns. It's an expensive fix that if it's a dangerous intersection, that may be what's warranted as much as dealing with parking issues. So, but I don't think the city council should decide that we favor parking over safety. So I'd like us to leave that with the engineering standard that's recognized by the courts.
Thank you, Councilmember Collins. I'm asking an honest question here this evening. I don't know where policy decision lies, and thank you for your input on that.
Well, I could brief attempt here, but from budgeting by priorities, those people that have come to public hearings and communicating with me and I think in general over the years, if there's one underlying fundamental policy, council should be concerned about, try to set in place, it would be public safety. That is defined by a police officer or a fireman, or in this instance, making access to businesses by pedestrians and or vehicles, passengers and their guests and them. This is about public safety. That should be a fundamental principle that the council needs to get behind. Whatever we can do correctly, and maintain to establish that. Some information here brought back to the council. The root here for me is public safety.
Mr. Mayor, in the form of debate, I would like to think that we're going to all work on a balance between public safety and parking, realizing the businesses is what is one source of revenue for our city to continue.
Yes.
I am a client of Fitness Quest, and speaking of public safety, those parking spots are almost always full. And one of the reasons they are is because of public safety. When we get into the winter, when it gets dark at 4:30, the exercise classes are going on well after dark, and people feel safe parking in front of the businesses rather than parking across the street and having to cross that busy intersection, especially after dark. So those parking spots are very important to those businesses because their clients feel that that's really the best place and safest place to park is in front. So I hope and I appreciate staff acknowledging that it was a communication error, and I'm really sorry it happened, and I'm glad it got quickly resolved, because we have to work with our businesses. You are the city, your business is, we wouldn't be here without your business. So thank you for coming, and we need to be very considerate of our businesses, and I see this as a learning experience for staff, and we all want to be safe, but those parking spaces are really important to those businesses, so thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that's it. I hope you had enough.
Speak either way. It's, there's public safety and there's personal safety. I guess I'm slightly confused. You're taking away parking spaces so that people have the free right to cross the street. I don't know if we need to teach how to cross the street, but I tell you what, I don't cross the street until I make sure the cars are stopped. And I pay attention to the cars that are approaching that car to make sure they're not exceeding too fast. That's gonna rear end them and push them into me. I think government has to draw a line somewhere between personal safety and public safety. We can't protect everybody 100% of the time. It's not our job. And taking away these parking spaces from these businesses that already have limited spaces, some of us know the issues that go on below the parking lot across the street, which is also a public safety issue. And Ms. Kidd is correct, in the evening hours, they don't want to be walking across to that other parking lot. Again, if you have a lot of folks at Fitness West during a meeting or during an exercise class, it is limited parking. And those spaces are full all the time. And those residents on 2nd Street, I understand their concern also, but this is something that's been there for many, many, many years. This is not a new issue. And now comes the point that we're addressing this. I'm slightly confused. Again, I agree with Lee that this is something that affects the businesses, affects our town, and should be brought before council.
Before we move on, do you have a comment?
I suppose my only question is that if there are state standards and engineering requirements for a city to follow because of insurance issues and things of that nature, I think that we have duty to rely on some of that for the monetary protection of the city. If we were to eliminate red no parking zones for one business, would you be advocating that we just simply get rid of all of them in town? Because every one that exists affects a business that's close by. And I think that that could be a disaster situation. So I don't know how you have to play favorites one over the other.
I wouldn't play favorites. I would actually listen to the concerned residents, Mr. Gase. I was outreached by several people in the community about this. Before the paint was dry, I was writing an email about this. If this occurred in other areas of the city, I wanted those folks to know that I'll go to bat for them as well. We need to get straight on this policy so this doesn't occur again. There's no reason that this, sounds to me like it should have been handled at a committee meeting, maybe come before council for an okay. I haven't been laid out yet on that procedure, but parking is a problem in this town. And Lincoln Street it's not the most pedestrian friendly until you get well up close to the top.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would propose that staff bring back to council some additional details relative to policy that would apply in this scenario. Recognizing that there is additional planning work that needs to take place in this vicinity. That may be a longer term approach. It is a matter of importance to us that we get it permanently resolved, but it is something that's going to take a bit more work. But for now, we'd be more than happy to provide the council an update that is informed based on our time, taking the time to get the facts right. An update to council on what that policy actually is.
And that,
We'd be happy to do that.
is adequate time to have that presentation for our meeting, the first meeting in October.
That will work.
Do you need any further direction tonight from the council? Are you comfortable with?
Staff is comfortable at this time.
All right, thank you. Thank you, members of the council as well. So we're on to